Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cathedral of Christ the Light. I am Father Brandon, the rector of the Cathedral.
And I'm Deacon Tony Santos, and this is another episode of The Good News.
The Good News. Welcome, everyone. There we go. Hi, Deacon Tony.
Hey, Father. How are you?
Good. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
It's wonderful. It's great being with you. Now, everyone, Deacon Tony is a brilliant, brilliant man, I have to say, and he is great at inventing all kinds of things. And he actually invented the Good News. Well, not the Good News, but this series that we call the Good News. And I just want to reflect on that for a moment. It was about a year ago, we were sitting down in our office and trying to figure out what this new episode series was going to be called. We thought it was going to be called like the Sunday Bulletin, the Sunday Update. I don't know. That we came up with all kinds of crazy, stupid names. And Deacon Tony just walks through the door and he goes, "Guys, I got it. It's the Good News." And then walked out. And so here we are, a year later, still proclaiming the good news, thanks to your vision, Deacon Tony.
You know, unfortunately, that's a little bit of who I am, because my wife calls me 10-minute Tony when I go to do things, because that's what happens. I just show up, I do it, and I get out. And
it only takes 10 minutes?
Sometimes. Sometimes it takes me an eternity just to get going.
Oh, there you go.
That's the problem.
Great. Yeah, so Deacon, just tell us a little bit about yourself. You're not from the Bay Area originally. You moved here a couple of years ago.
No, like the rest of the world, I always wanted to be in California. We came in here, we go, oh my God, I would love to live in California. And what happened? 40 years later, we end up here. My wife took a job here, and of course I dutifully followed along.
Sure.
Because what else am I going to do, right?
Right.
And here we are. It's going to be 2 years in about a month.
Gosh, time flies.
It's
2
amazing.
years already.
It's amazing.
Good. Well, we're so blessed to have you, and you started up a great ministry, the dining ministry.
Yep.
That's been. Just give us an update. How's that going?
Terrific. We serve 50 folks who come to our table every week. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's 40, but consistently having folks come to our table. We only open up for 1 hour, which I always find remarkable that we get that many people, coming in 1 hour. And we simply just. It's just a moment of grace for those who come. Mm-hmm. It's a moment of humility for everybody involved, including those who come to the table, because to be honest with you, it's probably not easy for some of them. Mm-hmm. And we try to be as welcoming, as charitable, as loving, as merciful as we possibly can be. Yeah. And it gives us great joy. Awesome. Great joy to have that opportunity.
That's great. And I just love that here at the Cathedral, we're feeding people both at the table of the Eucharist and with Christ's body and blood. We're feeding them in the Word, but also down below from the hall there, we're feeding people's bodily needs. We're giving them a warm meal. And I think there's more than just a meal that's feeding them. I think it's the witness that you and your team have that truly inspires.
Yeah, and it's amazing because the joy that the team itself derives from it is beyond compare. And I think that's the problem, that people don't understand that in giving, you receive so much more.
Wow.
And it's tremendous peace and joy that only God can create such an incredible thing for us to enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the ministry that you've been so wonderfully leading reveals the face of the merciful Father. And given that we're leading into the season of Lent, I think it's really important for us to really focus on the merciful Father, seeing him for who he truly is. And that brings us to what this episode is, the good news. And the good news this week, everybody, is that we have a merciful Father who's waiting for us, and he welcomes us in, and he runs and hastens to us. Don't be afraid of him.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people think of God as this very distant, difficult to understand or difficult to reach Father. Mm-hmm. And what we don't really comprehend is that he's right here, right now.
Right.
Giving us everything that we could possibly need.
Right. And I think that image that we come up where the Father is not merciful is because of sin.
Correct.
It's because of the shame or the embarrassment or the sadness that we feel and that we've let him down. But we know the story of Captured. We know that there was somebody that made us believe that God is not a good Father who's running to meet us. And I think so often, we've said this many times on this episode in the church, that we often are motivated by that wrong image of God. Like, he doesn't sit there on a cloud throwing lightning bolts and wearing Birkenstocks and has a big beard, right? He revealed himself to us in the person of Jesus Christ. And the very fact that the Lord Jesus came to us comes to show that the Father runs to us in our need, no matter what. And you have a remarkable story, Deacon Tony, that I've always been very inspired by, of your story and your conversion and your the heeding the call to become a deacon. Could you share that with us?
Well, sometimes I'm a little embarrassed to share it because that guy became a deacon. And when I was at my 40th year high school reunion from Immaculata La Salle High School in Miami, that Sunday we had a mass in the morning with the bishop and with the auxiliary bishop, and I came out invested. And nobody knew I was a deacon. And when they saw me, they came up to me and go, "We could have never imagined," because, well, I just lived a very full life of this world. And I think that's why some people were kind of surprised. But I had a sort of a St. Paul moment. I didn't get knocked off a horse, but I certainly got knocked off my horse that I thought I was riding in on. Because I definitely was somebody of this world. Chasing the money, chasing the reputation, what others thought of me, the glory that
all the human stuff
that gets festooned upon you from whatever worldly allurements you can get and attach yourself to. And it was I can't say it was a bad life. It was enjoyable, but it was full of all kinds of drama and pain, and just not a life that was, let's say, charitable. But one day I was sitting in mass, and we had three boys. They were in high school at the time at a Jesuit school in Miami, and they were they were going through various stages of different things that happen when you have 18, 20-year-olds, and so we had a moment of the prayers of the faithful, and they asked for vocations. And gosh, I had never heard that in my church over there in St. Patrick's in Miami Beach. And that was interesting. It's call for vocations. And at that moment, I had my eyes closed. I can remember it vividly. And I was sitting there, and immediately a voice came into my head and said, "You need to become a deacon." Exactly those words. And I looked at my wife because I said, maybe she said it. And it wasn't her, obviously. But the sad part about this, or the interesting thing about this, is I didn't know what a deacon was.
Wow.
We didn't even have a deacon in the parish.
Wow.
And so I'm going, okay, what is this? And, we got out of mass, and I told my wife, and she was overjoyed, which was a great response. Fast forward a couple of years later, and I've been mulling it over. I'm debating whether I'm going to do it. I don't know what I'm going to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A few months later, not 2 years later, about 6 months later, and I had this amazing job. As you know, I was chasing the dream, and I had this amazing job. And my boss, the president of the company, I was a vice president and a general counsel of a very well-known company. And he comes in and he goes, "Tony, I got to talk to you. Close the door." And I knew every time he closed the door, or either I went into his office or he came into mine, and we closed the door, it was like somebody blew something up, something happened horrible. I got to go mop something up. And he tells me, "We're selling the company." And I immediately knew, because I had been there a year and a half or two. I had gotten rid of my private practice. I had no clients whatsoever to go for chasing this dream job. And he goes, "And we're selling the company." And I knew I was a goner. I knew my job was gone at that moment. And when he left, I had an interior office, and I had this incredible vivid image at the moment. And I said, "I'm closing the door." And I closed the door in my interior office, and I dimmed the lights, and I had a conversation with God, and I said, "Lord, I'm not going to handle this well. I'm not going to do well. And I'm going to do things that I'm not going to feel good about. All the things I would normally do." And I said, "Right here, right now, I am handing my career to you." And I handed it to him. And I have never looked back.
Wow.
And it was wild. It was wild to have been in that moment, in that in that feeling of freedom.
Yeah.
Just total, complete peace, tranquility, and freedom right then and there at that moment.
Right.
We sold the company. I spent negotiations 8 weeks in secret. Nobody knew. And when we sold the company, it was at 4:05 in the morning. We finished the deal 4:05 in the morning on the day of my first son's birthday.
Wow.
And 3 hours later, I took a nap and I went back to help announce the laying off of everybody. And the second thing that happened was, without failure and exception, every single person that was there in that room came up to me and said to me, not what's wrong, what's going to happen to me, oh my God, this is terrible, none of the things you think would be said.
Yeah.
Everybody without exception said, Tony, what's going to happen to you? And that left an indelible mark.
Sure.
That left an indelible mark.
Sure. And here you are.
Here
you are. You're a deacon. You're serving people. You're helping us proclaim the message. And I think it goes back to that point where you said, Lord, here's my career. And I think that's what the Lord's inviting all of us to do is
to surrender.
Is to surrender.
To surrender.
Everything.
And I mean, I really gave up this amazing, wonderful, illustrious, worldwide deal kind of career. And you know what he did to me? I haven't had a job really in 14 years. But I have some clients, and he gave me these clients that came out of nowhere. And that first year after I lost my job, I made more money than I'd ever made in my life.
Wow.
In this moment of total peace and abandonment and surrender to God.
Right.
Which was crazy.
And that's what the Father, when you run to the Father, there is no other choice but to just give him everything and let go of everything, whether it be a career or a future, whether it be power or reputation. You give it all to him, and what do we receive in return? Everything that he wishes to give us. And it's far beautiful than anything that we could have ever imagined. We hear in the gospel this Sunday, it says, go that extra mile, right? And it's referring to if someone hurts you and so forth, go the extra mile with them. But I think I'd like to reflect here and just say, go the extra mile with the Lord who's calling you, who's with you, who is faithful. And for many of us, I think there's moments where we can go with the Lord, especially when we feel ashamed, we feel embarrassed, or we feel sad. The prodigal son felt all of those things. Deep shame, deep embarrassment for squandering everything he had. Sadness because he hurt his father. But the Father's standing there and saying, hey, I'm here. I'm going to welcome you in. And that's what God is doing with us. And the only way that we can receive everything is to say, you know what? That shame, that embarrassment, that sadness, it has no hold over me because I am held by the one who loves me. And to anyone who feels that, I say to you, don't be afraid to hasten to him, and you're going to receive much more than you could ever have asked or imagined. I truly believe that. But also for those who might be feeling lukewarm in our Christian faith, right? We could go through the motions doing all of this stuff. We could say, I go to church, I'm a nice person, I do my prayers.
All of the above.
Yeah.
My whole life.
Right. But then giving everything to Jesus and saying, I surrender, it explodes, right? That it becomes real,
Being intentional. In your relationship with Jesus, with God the Father, with the Holy Spirit at our side. Being intentional is the key.
Yeah.
Because we can do all of those things. And I did all of those things. All my kids got baptized and, But, was I really living my faith? Not really. Not really. And to learn how to do that is so easy.
Right.
It is so easy. But we are afraid of it because, we have work. We have family. We have extra family. We have cars.
We have things to do.
We want to go to dinner.
We got to live, at least in this world. What's striking me right now is that when you went into your office and you just surrendered everything to God, there were no conditions on it.
None.
There was none like says, okay, if this all works out,
Not at
then
all.
I will follow you.
I had no idea.
Or, prove to me that I'm going to get all that stuff in return, and then I'll follow you. You just said, Lord, I'm following you now. Because the thing that is true, and this is what I'm getting at, the only thing that's true is this moment.
That's right.
We don't know what the future holds. I don't know what tomorrow is going to be like. I don't even know what 2 hours is going to be like. And whatever has happened in the past, it really doesn't matter anymore because it's over.
That's right.
And we could ruminate over the past and beat ourselves up of what we could have done or should have done. We could get preoccupied of, how things ought to be. And I'm good at doing that. You know that, right? But in these weeks, what I've been really focusing on is that the only thing I know is true is me here right now, and that there is a God who loves me. And so being fully present to the present, being mindful of this moment and the immense love that God has for me. When I know that, when I'm overwhelmed by that, then I have the freedom to say, here you go, Lord.
Yeah.
The surrender in this moment, right? And I think that's what we're being asked to do. It's like today, now, this is the acceptable time. We're going to hear in Lent. This is the time to return to the Lord. Now is the time to just let go of everything. And,
it's funny you mentioned that because this morning, as I'm wont to do in the morning when I want to waste a little bit of time getting ready, I was watching a TikTok video, and this guy comes out and he goes,
hey, TikTok for like,
well, he's a
20-year-olds or something?
No, he's
Anyway,
a
okay.
priest. He's a priest.
Oh,
He's a priest.
no.
He's a
Okay.
priest. He's a priest who is on TikTok.
Okay.
And he goes, yesterday and tomorrow and today. And he said, yesterday and tomorrow, nothing you can do about it. Yesterday happened, you're done.
Yep.
Tomorrow, you don't know. But today is when you can do something. Mm-hmm. And that, struck me. And it's funny you mentioned what you just mentioned because that was the message he was giving out today. And I thought, wow, that's so real.
Yeah.
That's so real and so helpful to those who are worried about what if, or who are so distraught with all that could have been. Mm-hmm. And I think that we spend so much energy and time. It's a lost opportunity to make today fully count.
Right. And what is required today when we're in the midst of difficulty, when we're in the midst of uncertainty? I've been reading this small essay by Father Jacques Philippe. I forgot the name of the title, it's not hitting me right now, but it's about what to do in difficult times. And he says, God allows these times to happen so that we can do three things. Deepen our faith, put our trust in a hope that doesn't disappoint, and to continue to love with Christian charity. And so what's required, what's the perfect response today to the one who loves us and runs and hastens to us? Lord, you are the only one. I believe in God, the Father Almighty. I trust you. I know that you can bring the greatest good out of anything. I have the hope that you will take care of my family and my friends. I have the hope that you will inspire the one I love to make that act of faith and come back home. I have the hope that you will see me through this. And then the other thing is to love. When it's so easy to dismiss the past, or you could have gotten angry, you could get angry at the people that hurt you or ignore you. But God says, I want you to love. And love means to desire that good for the other person, that they may have life. And living that faith, hope, and love, guess what? We're firmly rooted in the Father's house.
That's it.
And that's where we ought to be.
That's exactly right. And I'm constantly reminding people that love is sacrificial. Mm-hmm. Love means something. You're putting something aside, your ego, your greed, whatever it is, you're parking it. You're parking it for that moment, for that other person.
Right.
Because if shutting your mouth up is a sacrifice, then that's love.
Then that's love. Yeah.
And sometimes we need to do that.
Right.
We don't realize it, but we got to do it. And it's very easy to be the one person, the one hand clapping in the room and leaving everybody on the ground in wounds.
Right.
And not realizing it.
Right.
And sometimes maybe you just need to not say a thing.
Right.
Or maybe you need to say the right thing.
Right. Well, there we go. There's the good news. So, Deacon Tony, thanks for being on. We're starting Lent on Wednesday. So we have a couple masses here at the Cathedral. There's 4, I think, right, D? So there's a 7 a.m. I don't know who would go at 7 a.m., but that's like...
I'll be there.
Oh, God bless you. I am not a morning person by any means, so thanks for giving people ashes.
I've been trying to get the 8 a.m. mass going, but it's not going to happen.
It's way too early for me. All right. So Mass at 7, Father Dennis will be the celebrant. Then there's a 12:10 Mass. That's the regular daily Mass. I'll be the celebrant for that. And that one will be pretty quick because I know a lot of people got to get to lunch or back to work after lunch and so forth. Then there's a 5:30 Mass. The 5:30 Mass will be solemn. Bishop Barber will be the celebrant. That will have the full Mass. And that one's actually pretty well attended.
Right.
And then there will be a 7 o'clock Vietnamese Mass. So great way to start the season of Lent by showing up to Ash Wednesday. But for Lent, I just want to say this. What are you giving up?
I am going to give up talking too much.
How long was this episode?
It's going to be 20 minutes.
It's going to be 20. There we go. Okay, very good. But yeah, I don't even know what I'm going to give up because I don't know. And as you heard Father Ricardo and I talk about last week, I think the best way to do this Lent is let the Lord lead us and ask him, Lord, what's the biggest wound that you want to heal in my life? And then just let the Lord lead. And we follow him because waiting for us is his Father who truly loves us. So I wish all of you a blessed Sunday. Thanks, Deacon Tony, for sharing the good news with us. And know that we are praying for you. And please keep us in your prayers as well. God bless.